we're going to start off with our first two guests. They're actually live in the studio. Arthur and Watson are here from J-Wat Productions. J-Wat Productions started in a basement. What started as a company to do short films became something more when asked to make its first commercial back in 2011. After that, it went on to do many different things, from wedding videos, instructional videos, to zombie short films. They also went on to win many local Utah film festivals in comedy, drama, and even the horror genre. J-Wat Productions in no way likes to limit itself. Nowadays, they do everything from music videos, reviews, video gameplay reviews, and funny sketch videos. J-Wat's most recent accomplishment was having a booth at the Salt Lake City Comic-Con that was completely crowdfunded by its fans. J-Wat would like to thank them for making all this happen. Arthur, Watson, good evening. Welcome to K-Talk and the Fringe Radio Show.
How's it going?
Good. How are
Hello.
you? How are you guys doing?
We're pretty ecstatic to be on the radio. It's pretty awesome.
Cool.
Nervous.
Cool.
About to pee my pants.
Nothing to be nothing to be nervous about. So, how did you guys? We had the opportunity. We've met Watson. I met you before.
Yeah.
Through some other ventures. How did you guys get into doing what you do? And why don't you tell the listeners about J-Wat? What we talked a little bit before we got started here. We're going to cover a lot of different things with you guys tonight. But how did you get into all this? Did you have a desire to do this? How did it all start for you?
At least for me, so J-Wat, the name, J comes from the J is Jimmy, which was my partner back in the time, and then Watt is Watson.
Okay.
So me personally, how I got started in things of that nature, I've always really enjoyed entertaining people. When I was a kid, my favorite show was the Drew Carey Show. I grew up, I loved to put on little skits and plays for my friends, and then, got really big into improv, and then as time went on, I did a lot of stage work, I've been in a lot of plays, improv was probably one of my biggest influences, but I guess what really I was making films ever since I was little. The very first time I can remember making a short film was my mom. My grandpa gave my mom his old video camera, and I was very into Legos and things like that. So I tried to make little stop motion videos with Legos and blow up the Legos and things like that. But I mean, as far as
young George Lucas.
Yeah, right. Yeah, definitely. But then as things went on, I got more serious into it and started buying the proper equipment. And then Arthur, I knew him a little bit in high school, and then we started to do a series called You, Me, and Him, and I learned very quickly that doing production and doing it all on your own is very difficult. Mm-hmm. So I knew Arthur was really big into making movies as well, and I couldn't get rid of him since. That was back in 2012. So
yeah,
I don't know
can't
about
get
Arthur.
Rid of me.
Yeah, what about you, Arthur?
What about me? Oh goodness. Well, it mostly started in high school for me. It was just I've always been interested in doing different things myself as well, drama, singing, musical theater. And then one day I decided to try film, and I, really enjoyed it, and I didn't mess with it for a long time after. But then I just kind of decided, hey, I want to try it again. And I was teaching myself how to use a camera and how to film things. And that's kind of when I bumped into Watson at that time. It was just really good timing.
Right.
And, we've been doing a lot of
stuff,
different stuff, and a lot of great opportunities.
Well, and what I find really interesting is that, first of all, I had the opportunity. Here I'll give you a little bit of my film background as far as editing goes. I had to put together. I took a bunch of old time commercials out of the '60s. A lot of them in today's world very not politically correct by any means.
Great.
Exactly. Exactly. and I actually put them together, and I formed some 15-minute shows to play on a TV station. Oh. And I'll tell you what, it's a ton of work, man.
Yeah.
And these were commercials that were done. I was just trying to put some little openers and closers and music behind the scenes, and I tell you, my hat's off to you guys, because that is, it's not only a ton of work, it's a talent, and to have the eye for it is just, you got to have the right eye for it. It's just that simple. And anyone who thinks that you can go out and just throw these things together in 10 seconds is crazy, because
well, and that's the sad truth, is a lot of people think that way.
Right.
We run into it all the time where people are like, "Oh yeah, you can do this for me? Great. It's okay, I need it for 4 hours." It's like, no, that's not how it goes.
Yeah, just to do a little video, I mean, to have these old-time commercials and have a little box slide in and say what the commercial was in the year it was recorded. I mean, it took a ton of time. I was using Sony Vegas, which I found out later is quite complex, more than and I thought, I'm an IT guy by day, I'll figure this out. No, it's a lot of work, and the filming is obviously just the start of it, and then the sound and everything else to go with it. So again, my hat's off to you guys.
Well, thanks.
Yeah.
But so you guys, you've done a little bit of everything.
Yeah. And you see, I mean, I've always been my biggest. A lot of people say this is very cliche, but my biggest inspiration as far as that goes is Steven Spielberg. And I always felt that Steven Spielberg doesn't shy away from, he's not strict to a certain genre. I mean, you have like M. Night Shyamalan and Guy Ritchie and certain things that they're very we like M. Night Shyamalan is mostly horror. Like that's mostly what he does. At least that's what you think when you think.
Now, he's the Sixth Sense guy, right?
Yes.
Is that kind of where he made his?
That's where he kind of made his big thing, and then he hasn't made much better.
Nothing
since.
interesting. Right. Nothing good.
But
Sorry, M. Night.
Steven Spielberg, to me, I mean, he made Jaws. He made Artificial Intelligence. He made Minority Report. I mean, he made Jurassic Park. I mean, there's just such a variety. So I've never thought to myself, man, I'm really good at horror, I should only do horror. Oh, man, I'm really good at comedy, I should only do comedy. I've always felt like if you enjoy it, why not do it all? And I guess, it depends on what people like. But
so now, do you enjoy filming the stuff and putting it together, or do you like being on both sides of the camera?
Well, I mean,
because weren't you doing a comedy show type thing for a while?
Yeah, I'm like I said, improv was a big inspiration, so I do tend to like to be sometimes in front of the camera as well. I prefer to write, direct, and act sometimes. Arthur, on the other hand, Arthur likes to act sometimes, but for the most part, I mean, I guess I don't have to speak for you.
I'm right here. Yeah, I really enjoy acting, but I prefer to be the camera operator.
Right.
I really enjoy that. I just have a very technical-oriented mind, and it's great to be able to solve these problems on the go, and it's kind of nice.
And find the right shot and the right angle, and again, everyone thinks with a camera you just kind of follow one person around, but it's having three or four, and this one's always recording. And I've talked to some guys that have been in the TV business for years, and they say, there's nothing like the old over-the-shoulder shot that you see like on the old talk shows to get the reaction out. And again, that's a science. It's not only a science, it's an art to put it all together, and then know when to blend it in and give people the feel, not of just standing there looking at one individual, but what the whole room, get the feel of the room without even saying anything.
Yeah, and see, guys like me are everywhere. It's sad to say, but people who want to act and direct and write, there's so many of those people. But people like Arthur's like the special. He's a special person that you need to find. The guy that's totally fine filming and making the thing look beautiful, because there just seems to be not that many people out there that want to do just specifically that. It seems like, well, I want to be, the director, and I want to be the actor, and I want to be everything. So that's why I like to keep Arthur close, because without Arthur, there wouldn't be much of J-Wat. So
thanks, Watson.
You're welcome.
Now, how many people are part of J-Wat? Are you a fairly big group of people?
Depends on the mood of some people, but for the most part,
depends on the production.
Yeah, it depends on the production as well. Sometimes we definitely like to get hands out there, but as far as there's me, there's Arthur. There's also Megan Golden, who's a local cosplayer. She's known fairly well. She's awesome. Hayden Wilson and Justin, and then obviously Bianca. So about 6. Let's see, did I say that right? 6 or 7. And we get new people coming all the time, and we like to change things up every once in a while with more people that come and record and do things. But for the most part, that's who we. And then Will's really a big help. Yeah, we have tons of people. Like Arthur said, it depends on the project.
People kind of jump in and out.
Yeah.
Now you were at I have nothing really scripted here. I just kind of go all over the place.
Oh, it's the best part.
At Comic-Con, okay, Comic-Con, 120,000 they put through the door.
Yeah.
It was, it was interesting because in the morning, we got there Thursday morning early, and I mean, I'll be honest with you, but 4 or 5 hours of that place, and I've had enough. I mean, it was just insanity in there, and I know some people were a little kind of at the start of Thursday. They said, yeah, Fan X, it was mobbed at 2:00, and then at 4. I mean, you couldn't even get down the rows. It was just so crazy.
Yeah.
But like you were mentioning, somebody on your team, the cosplay stuff. What is that? Are these? That's really huge. I see that this year. At Comic-Con, they brought in more of the if you want to call them, the more famous cosplay people. I see there's a girl that actually we're going to have on the show. I don't know her real name, but she goes by Ivy Doom Kitty. She's how do I put it without being careful on here and there? She's very full-figured, if you will, and she can
very
make
appropriate.
Very appropriate. She can make a costume very animated.
Yes.
And I follow her, and I had the opportunity to meet her. Just really nice. These people, I mean, do they do acting themselves, or is it more, hey, I dress up like Wonder Woman and then take photos? I mean, the cosplay thing seems to be huge.
It's starting to get big.
What is that all about, if you could explain that a little bit?
Well, I mean, to me it seems like it's more of a photo shoot type thing. I think like they tend to take a lot more photos. But, I mean, what's amazing to me with cosplayers is some of them take tremendous amount of time. Like, they don't just buy their costume at a store. Like, some of them literally make their costume from the ground up, and that's what makes cosplayers amazing in my eyes. I don't know. What do you think?
Well, I think there's just a really passionate group of people that they just love making costumes. They love like being the character, and you'll have these people. They're like, oh, I really love Lara Croft, and I'll like Megan Golden, one of our J-Wadians. And, you'll have people who they'll take a look at screenshots and, of movies or video games, and they'll look at the smallest details, and they're like, oh, okay, so the belt's right here, and this is where you put the gun, and I mean, really meticulous stuff. It's impressive, and I think for a lot of people, maybe the average Joe would go in and see them, and they're like, oh, that's a nice costume, and they really sunk tons of time into it, and the real fans will be like, oh my gosh, you're like the 1987 version.
Yeah, and that's why cosplay. I mean, that's why Salt Lake City Comic-Con's so great for those kind of people. They're so supportive. Like, I don't think what a lot of people don't understand. There's a lot of nerdy people in Salt Lake. Maybe nerdy's kind of a bad. I mean, I'm definitely a nerd. I'm not trying to say that I'm not. I mean, I think it's starting to become less. I mean, that word used to be used very negatively. Nowadays, a lot of people are very passionate about that word, and I think it's awesome. And I think cosplayers are kind of the face of what makes the geek culture so awesome, is the fact that you can dress up and go to this convention and you're not going to be alone, and you can try different things, and cosplay's pretty awesome.
It's huge, and it seems like it's bigger at some of the other. When I look at the Facebook, when I follow some of these different people, and it looks like Salt Lake it's huge. It's bigger in other places, but it looks like it's going to continue to grow and grow and grow.
Yeah.
Now, do you guys do any work with the cosplayers at all? I mean, do you film them? Do you?
So Megan, like I said, we did a few things with her. We did a few. We actually are in the works of working a few short Megan, she dresses up. One of her famous things that she does is she dresses up as Lara Croft. For those who don't know who Lara Croft is, she's a very famous character from a video game called Tomb Raider.
Right.
And also they made a movie of it with Angelina Jolie.
Right.
But we're in the works of, hopefully it's going to happen. She gets very busy. But we made a rap, and we're going to make like a rap with Lara Croft. So we do things like that, and we have a bunch of cosplayers come and do reviews on movies or video games, and then we kind of get their names out that way.
So the cosplayer, does it kind of cross a little bit into it kind of, if it was kind of born out of the video game, if you will, is there's a lot of, is that kind of taking the game to something you can touch and feel, if you will, if that sounds crazy. I mean, it seems like a lot of these characters, and especially at Comic-Con, there was a lot of them walking around. I had the opportunity to work with Bill a little bit with the crowd surfing project at the first Comic-Con, and interviewed a lot of different people. And I mean, there were characters, I'd go up to them and, some unbelievably beautiful women and say, well, what are you supposed to be? And she'd be like, well, I'm da-da-da-da from this game or whatever. And I didn't realize the depth. I mean, I didn't realize how many different games there are out there and how much stuff is out there. I was blown away.
Well, I would say, thinking about this, that like imitation is the sincerest form of flattery, and what better way to show your love for this artistic medium of video games than to just say, hey, look, I am this video game character. This is what I love, and I think it really shows. It lets people show, what they value, because, they put all this time and effort into doing that. And, like Lara Croft is a great example of a strong female protagonist in a video game. So, that's one, important thing about her. So, like, I think every character that someone cosplays as, there's a reason. Even if it's like, oh, it was really fun to make this really crazy elaborate costume, but I really, it's video games, they're starting to branch out more and be more thought provoking, more artistic rather
they're
than
taken a lot more seriously. Seems like.
One of our listeners writes in and says, what do the guys think about the new Call of Duty that was just released? Are you Call of Duty players?
We have interesting thoughts about Call of Duty, that's for sure. They've made a lot of them, if I could say that. I'm not a huge Call of Duty guy. I'm more of a story-type driven guy. The new one definitely looks different than the most of them. At least that's what I've seen. But what tends to happen with some video games as well is they make another one and another one and another one, and it may not be giving it a proper chance because some say it's pretty amazing, but I'm more of a guy that likes a story. So what do you think, Arthur?
Well, I just recently bought like all the Call of Duty games again because there's this big sale on Steam, and so I've been playing through them again. So that's a great question.
He does that a lot.
I have this problem. I buy way too many games on Steam. Don't have time for them, and I really love the Call of Duty games. It started out kind of more like an homage to like World War II, and a lot of heroes, that participated in that. And they're not always the best storytelling, but I really enjoy them. And I think Kevin Spacey is going to be the best thing that happened to Call of Duty. I mean, easy, right?
Yeah, I don't know if you know.
No,
that.
I don't.
The newest Call of Duty is going to have Kevin Spacey as like one of the main. You're not playing Kevin Spacey, at least that's what I doubt that's what's happening.
It.
But he's like a commander, it seems like, type CIA type person, so that's going to be really cool.
Is that what's? I'll be honest with you. I am not into. I would like to get into gaming.
Sure.
I'm not into it. I got too many other projects. Gaming for me, and I don't know how old you guys are, but when I bought my first Apple II. Apple II.
Remember that
when they first just came out, way long time ago. And the big game back then, of course, was Leisure Suit Larry.
There you go.
And you walk down the stairs, you type and what have you. There wasn't even any graphics or anything, so that kind of dates me a little bit. But Are these games, are there more Hollywood personalities, if you will, that are being incorporated into the different games?
It seems like it's starting to happen a lot recently. I mean, it seems like that's starting to, I mean, there's been a lot of famous, recently a game came out called Destiny. And one of the lead, so you're on this, like, you're in the way in the future, and you're basically this, like, you're like the human race trying to survive. That's I'm trying to put it as basic as possible. It's very complex, but you have this little robot that kind of helps you out. And what's awesome is that robot is actually played by I need to know his name, but he plays Tyrion in Game of Thrones, and he's like this. He's a huge character right now. Everyone's in love with him, but it seems like, I mean, Samuel L. Jackson was in a Grand Theft Auto video game, and it seems like, I don't know, it seems to be happening. Is there any other ones that you can think of that they've used a lot of their faces as well with
drive me nuts. No, Gary Oldman did some voice acting work in one of the Call of Duty games.
Yeah, that's right.
And why can I not think of her? The girl from Inception, the one that's in.
Oh
Beyond.
yeah, right. That's a great one. Yeah, Beyond Two Souls.
What?
Wow, I can't believe I don't know. Ellen Page.
Ellen Page, yeah.
So there actually a game came out, and it had their face and everything. It had Ellen Page. It had the man, I gotta remember his
Willem
name.
Dafoe.
There it is. Yep. So yeah, that seems to be happening a lot more recently.
So they're starting to bring in more characters. Yeah. What do you think about the violence of some of these games then? Now, because and I'm not going to get into the politics of that or whatever. I mean, I think personally, my views on it is, if you're a parent and you've got kids and you think it's too violent, well then, you know what? Turn it off. I mean, take it away from them.
Exactly.
And then people, it's like, we go down all different trails on this one. But I did notice that one of the big PC companies here in town had their big the big 50-inch televisions were set up. The monitors were there, and they were running people through. And I just saw this game that went forever, where it was just people shooting more ammo and rounds and killing aliens, and I mean, it was just heads blowing up.
I believe it was Titanfall.
It was. Yeah.
Okay. What's your thoughts on that stuff? I mean, do you think it's influencing people a little bit too much? Do you think some of these kids are a little too young to be playing it? And
what I think, you should know who your kids are. That's, I think, the overall thing. My parents understood that as me growing up, maybe not when I was little that I should be playing, these really violent games. But as I got bigger, they became more lenient. But they are, I feel like, I just feel like you should know your kid well enough that if they don't seem like, I'm having a hard time putting it into words.
If you don't think your kid's going to go crazy and kill people, is that what you're saying?
guess. I feel like you should know, if your son or your daughter shows rage and is something like that, you don't think that you should be throwing those kind of video games on them. And if maybe there's definitely some kids that have that rage when they play video games, and that's not something. But I've played a lot of violent video games my whole life, and have I ever had any kind of thoughts or something like that? No. And even if I mean, most people don't, at least that I know of, don't think about, well, it's happened in a video game means I can do it in real life. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, right.
It's an interesting thing, and I know a lot of people disagree with me, but I feel like it's the parents that needs to filter what they feel like their kid, if they feel like their kid shouldn't be playing it, that's totally up to them.
Sure.
And I support that 100%.
Right. Like I said, turn it off and call it a day.
Yeah, I agree.
And my thing is that, it's just like, you go from radio to movies to comic books to video games. You have all these different forms of entertainment. Right. And, like, they've been demonized by people like, oh, that's bad. It's going to ruin your kids. And, it's different ways of expressing ourselves. And that's what video games are. And, there's violence in movies, there's violence in video games, and, obviously, like Watson was saying, it depends on the person, what is appropriate. I think what's interesting is the way you can use use the violence. I mean, you can use the violence and you can just kind of like be like, yeah, it's all macho. It's like the Expendables and, you're killing everyone.
Sure.
But you can also use it. There's a really interesting game called Spec Ops: The Line. And it's very similar to, I don't know, Heart of Darkness. Or Apocalypse Now.
Okay.
So Heart of Darkness is a book that Apocalypse Now was based on. And so it's based on, that story. And it talks about the horrors of war. And it's almost disturbing playing it because you're playing this video game and you're making these choices that normally in a video game you just assume, oh, kill all these guys. But in this video game, it's using it against you, and you're actually kind of a really messed up, psycho, evil character. And so I think that, it depends on how you use it.
Right.
Unfortunately, it seems that the most common way to interact in a video game is to pull a trigger and point it at someone. I think that there's definitely room for more experiences than just that. Yeah. And there's many examples of games that don't use violence and are still able to tell a story or provide an experience. I think it's just like the quick buck, we'll just make a first-person shooter because they sell millions. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's just people in the game industry who aren't terribly creative, and they're like, well, we'll just make a first-person shooter. Just like Hollywood, they love sequels. Whatever sells.
Well, it's about the buck. Here's a question for you guys. I got several of them. Let me get a couple of them out to you. It says, who does the writing, special effects, scripts, music, etc. for your production company?
So, like we kind of mentioned, we have quite of a big variety of people that help us out. For the most part, the writing can come from some other close friends that have written. Most of the time, it comes from. I've written a lot of them. I won't deny that. I've written a lot of them. The special effects, I've learned a lot of them. Arthur's learned a lot of them for sure. But we also like to take turns with the things like, not only do we like to make sure that we make different things, but we also want to make sure that we all experience different things. So we all take turns with the editing process and things of that sort. Arthur actually edited our most recent short, which was called Warning Hot Girl, which is sounds interesting, but it's basically about these three roommates who live together, and they're doing a normal sketch about same mediocre things when all of a sudden this hot girl just keeps interrupting their sketch. And they are like, wait, what is going on? But what's great about it is it's actually we wanted to poke at and make fun of the fact that we see a lot of advertisements and a lot of YouTube where they advertise things by over-sexualizing women and things of that nature. Like Carl's Jr., we poke a little fun at Carl's Jr., but also
Did they go over the top with some ad just recently?
It caused a lot of...
I didn't see the ad, but I heard it.
It's great. But there's some, I guess, not for everybody, but yeah. But anyways, it's but Arthur did a really good job at editing and the special effects in that one. So like I said, we all just take turns and learn.
Okay, everybody does a little bit.
Yeah.
Now, do you production company, do you guys offer services to people? So let's say are you kind of just doing your own thing, or do you do editing, for profit, if you will? I mean, do you do that as well? If somebody's got a film project they want done, or they have a bunch of clips they want put together, do you guys do that as well?
Yeah, I mean,
we can.
Yeah, we do about everything. I mean, we are a business, so I mean, we do, like it mentioned, we do music videos and things of that nature. If someone sent us clips and wants to make us a compilation, yeah, I mean that's pretty easy stuff to do. So I mean, but yeah, we're a business, so we've done a lot of commercials, instruction videos. How can
people get a hold of you? What's the best way to contact you?
The best way to contact me is Watson at jwatproductions.com. That goes right to our email.
And, do you have a website? Or
yeah, we have www.jwatproductions.com. It mostly just sends you to our Facebook right now.
Okay.
But I mean, we found that that's the most easiest anyway for a lot of people. So, but yeah, I mean, for something like that, like compilations or something, I wouldn't imagine us charging a whole lot. But yeah, we actually do a lot of great stuff and do a lot of great deals, and we like to support local artists and artists in general. So, yeah.
Well, it's again, there's so much. And maybe in the next, we got to take a little break here in just about 20 seconds, a little commercial break, but then we'll talk a little bit more about some, doing some things here locally in Utah film, and then I'd like to get into a discussion about YouTube, because the media is everything's taken kind of a different. It's taken a turn. It's going a different direction. There's a lot of opportunities out there for people, and it'll be fun. Tonight in the studio, we've got Watson and Arthur from J-Wat Productions talking about cosplay, Comic-Con, first-person shooter, games, film, all kinds of stuff. Stick around. We've got a lot more to cover tonight. All right, everybody, welcome back to the Fringe Radio Show. Our guests tonight are from J-Wat Productions, and we're honored to have them here. Watson and Arthur, thank you so much for taking time out of your Saturday night.
Thank you.
For sure. If you don't mind, before we get going,
go for it.
We were talking about support and, the cosplayers and things like that. Another really awesome thing that's happened recently to me is there's a really cool Utah Facebook forum that just started about video games. It's called Utah Gamers, started by Courtney. And, I just wanted to give a shout out to them, because it's been really cool to see this group come together, and a lot of people who maybe feel not necessarily included very much, and that they all come together and kind of make a family. And I just kind of wanted to give a shout out to her and all those people that got that started, because they're awesome.
No problem at all. I mean, it's a group effort. It sounds like you obviously, one man or one girl or woman can't do the whole thing. I mean, it takes several people in this industry, without a doubt, to pull things together. But no, I think it's really cool. And like I said, the Comic-Con thing is just amazing, and then meeting you guys there again at Comic-Con we met before one time, but again, it's just interesting to find out what people are into, and comic, like you said, talk about being nerdy, but I don't think it's really nerdy. I think it's kind of a place to show off your artistic side. And
definitely.
I mean, I know myself, I wouldn't dress up like some of those people. I wouldn't. I'd be terrified to.
Oh, yeah.
But I mean, it's artistic expression, and
exactly.
The people there that paint, amazing bunch of artists that do freehand painting and do all the artwork for these comic books and stuff like that. Just it absolutely blows me away. What about filmmaking here in Utah? Utah, I think it's one of those states that there's a couple things associated with Utah. Jello and Mormons and kids with big families and beautiful rock formations down south. But our film community here is pretty huge, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, there's more and more stuff being filmed here all the time.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, you want me to go?
I want you to talk about it.
Yeah, I'm not the expert. I mean, a lot of Disney productions are filmed around here. They're just about to build a production studio in Park City.
They might have broken ground. I think they're already started. I think they're already done. I don't know. I can't remember. But I mean, I think one of the biggest influences with that is the Sundance Film Festival.
Right.
I mean, I remember as a little kid getting to go see a few short films and stuff with my uncle, and I mean, I think that's what's been another huge thing that's fueled a lot of local filmmakers to really try and make something of themselves. But we've been really fortunate enough to help with some really awesome projects, and some of them we can't talk too much about yet because they are so cool, and we wish we
want to,
but we can't.
Are these things that are going to go to the big screen?
We're not quite sure. But they will be like out in the public. So like J-Wat on Facebook, and you're gonna, especially if you like. I can't give too much away, especially if you like. I'm just gonna say like our Facebook page.
Okay. Right, so go check it out.
So you can know what
out.
we're working on and.
Well, yeah, there is Sundance, and there is a lot of these short films. I mean, like I think one of the ones that was probably groundbreaking was Napoleon Dynamite.
Oh yeah.
Wasn't that a short 15-minute film up at Sundance?
Yeah, at first it was, and then which was just the scene, I believe, of which is in the movie, the scene where he takes the toy and ties a string and throws it out the window.
Right.
That's all it was for the first little bit there, but. Yeah, I mean,
and John Herder, he was at Comic-Con.
Yeah,
it's kind of, I mean, that was kind of his big thing, and then he kind of, he did Blades of Glory or something, and then now I don't know what he's doing. I don't know if he's into the gaming side or if he's behind the camera.
He actually just did another short film locally that I missed my chance to go do. I'm not quite sure what it's gonna be, but I know he was just here in Utah doing a short film, so it'll be cool to see what that is.
Yeah, it's amazing what comes out of what comes out of Sundance. And the short films and the indie films, I never really got into those until I started meeting people in this community and meeting people like yourself. Some of these short films are just so amazing. I think one thing that people are things are changing a little bit. I mean, it seemed like some of these movies, you got like the Star Trek, the Star Wars, you've got all these science fiction films that, I mean, it's just, man, I mean, like, again, as I mentioned, I'm a Star Trek fan, and Into Darkness was just boom, and it was nonstop from the second it opens till the second it closed, and it seems like films try to outdo each other, but now we're starting to see, I believe, a little change. Bruce Dern just did, I don't know if you guys saw Nebraska, filmed in black and white.
Oh, yeah.
A super simple film.
Beautiful
movie. Went off the charts as far as making money. Black and white, about a guy that thought he possibly won like a sweepstakes ticket, $1 million. And it was such a simple story, but a great story, well told.
Great
acting. Simple as simple gets. And it seems like we're starting to see more simple films with great acting, kind of getting back to the roots of where films and acting were all about, and not so much, like the Avengers type stuff that's nothing but CGI. And I think we're seeing a little bit of a change. And these independent films, some of these 15-20 minute independent films are just absolutely amazing.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you guys have in the can? Do you have stuff out there put together that people, our listeners, can take a look at? And you got a YouTube channel too. Yeah, that was one of the questions.
That was what I was about to actually bring up. I mean, another thing that gets looked over a lot is YouTube. I mean, I feel like, we feel like it's not professionally done unless it's on the big screen. But nowadays, YouTube is definitely seeming to be a place where a lot of filmmakers are getting discovered, and they put a lot of awesome work, and it's some of their stuff is even better than some of the things that you see put on the big screen.
Right.
But yes, we do have a YouTube channel. You just put in J-Wat Productions in the search bar, and that's JWAT. Some people like to put 2 T's. No, it's just JWAT, J-Wat Productions. In the search bar, and you're going to find loads of stuff that we've done.
Okay. Now, what about on your Facebook page? Is it J-Wat Productions or just J-Dat?
Yeah, it's just J-Wat Productions. Like, there's normally in our business cards you'll see a dash, but it's JWAT Productions.
Okay.
And if you just do, like I said, if you just type in www.jwatproductions.com, it'll take you right to our Facebook page.
Gotcha.
So, but yeah, I mean, it's interesting with this new age. It seems like a lot of people are able to make movies nowadays, and I think it's because of the accessibility of cameras. I mean, that seems like something that, I mean, you could talk about.
Well, I mean, before, if you wanted to make a film, you had to pay for film. You had to develop the film, and
pay someone to make it for you.
Yeah, and not just, you couldn't just make a film by yourself necessarily. I mean, you kind of had some, you could do like 16 millimeter and stuff,
Mm-hmm.
but like it's not as easy as it is today. I mean, today anyone can have access to the tools that they need to make a professional production, and I think as kind of what you were talking about, like there's just a bit of CGI fatigue. Like, I mean, how much CGI explosions and people dying and monsters and spaceships do you get until it's like, okay, it's not that exciting anymore? Then you got to tell goodies.
Which usually doesn't happen. That's the sad part.
Yeah. But,
Michael Bay.
Oh.
I'm calling you out because I know you listen.
but yeah, I mean, it's so great that someone who just has a good story to tell, they can just make it for a relatively small amount of money and just some passionate people.
Right.
And so I think it's great.
Now, you guys, with your bio, you've won some awards here in Utah for some of your stuff?
Yeah, to be fair, most of them been in the comedy category. We've won one in horror as well, but they've been in just some local, the Salt Lake City Comedy Festival, and things of that sort. But I mean, it seems like people. I mean, we do tend to do a lot more comedies than any other genre.
It's easier. I mean, and it's fun. People like to laugh.
Yeah, our first ever award we won was for a short that we made called Party Pooper, and it's one of the ones that everyone usually who knows who we are talks about. Basically, it's about this workaholic, very nerdy, slender, ugly. I'm going to say ugly because he's my really good friend, Jimmy. But basically, it's about him trying to just use the restroom, and he seems very scared of using the restroom. And while he's in there, somebody comes in and starts dancing in the stall next to him. And he's like, "What is going on? Can you stop it?" And then later on, he brings another person, and they dance, and he's like, "Okay, get out of here." And then it turns into this huge party while he's in there. It's a really great one but that one was our first award, and actually was like our first big production of a comedy. So, yeah, definitely.
Well, it sounds like a lot of fun. Horror. Now, you do a lot of horror stuff too?
We usually do a zombie video every single year. We try and do a zombie short every single year. This year has been really rough only because we have Comic-Con and we've been doing a bunch of other projects, so we're not quite sure if it's going to happen this year. But yeah, we've done really cool. I'm really proud of our horror movies. Our last one was called Relentless Dead. Is our zombie short. We also did one called How to Be a Serial Killer, which technically isn't a horror. It was more of a comedy, but it was a really fun one. It was a mockumentary of a guy who wants to be a serial killer.
A mockumentary.
Yes, that's a fun word, right?
That's a fun word. That's new, yeah.
Yeah, a mockumentary means it's a documentary but fake. It's a fake documentary. So like The Office or This is Spinal Tap or something like that.
Great movie.
Yeah, great movie. And so, yeah, he goes to like these famous serial killers from movies like Michael Myers, Scream. I can't remember what his real name is, Scream, but Jason. And yeah, it's really fun.
It's one of my favorites. I love it.
Yeah, that's
fun.
another one that people really enjoy. But we've also made some like hardcore horrors. Not like hardcore horrors. That sounds really bad. But like some like ones that are actually decently scary. Yeah, so definitely need to check those out on YouTube.
You think the zombie stuff though is a little bit getting a little old? I mean, obviously AMC with Walking Dead is
and now Sci-Fi has a
right. They have a thing, and then I enjoyed World War Z just to sit and watch it, but to me it was kind of The Walking Dead brought to the big screen.
Yeah.
A little different twist on it, but I mean, now AMC, I understand that The Walking Dead started from a comic book series.
Yes, it did.
And now it's turning. I don't have cable. I need to get cable or satellite, but my understanding is it's turning very dark and going a very different, someone said of almost a psychotic type.
Yeah, well, I mean, they've been into the zombie apocalypse for almost 5 seasons now, so as anyone would probably during that time, they're getting pretty dark, and it's, yeah, these last couple episodes, I won't spoil anything, But these last couple episodes were pretty dark. And, it's funny. I mean, you're right. I feel like zombie in general, people have it has exploded. With Walking Dead, I mean, there's even a video game out right now, and it's super popular, and I really enjoy it right now. You need to play it, beat it.
Excellent.
Okay.
Yeah, I know.
But it's funny. You know what I always think about when someone brings this up? I feel like we need to bring dinosaurs back. That's what I think.
Yeah, where are they?
I mean,
Jurassic Park!
I mean, they are bringing.
Well, we brought a big one back this summer,
Yeah, well, yeah, Godzilla.
Yeah.
Thank you for that. It just feels like I would rather, me personally, zombies are great, but, they are coming out with Jurassic World, so hopefully that'll...
Is that kind of the fifth one?
Now.
Yeah. Fourth one, so that'll be interesting. But that's what I always think of. You're right. Let's get over zombies and let's go back to dinosaurs. That's what I think.
That's just Hollywood running out of ideas again.
Probably.
Is what I'm going to say.
So many remakes. Although, and we could talk a little bit. We got a news break coming up in just under a minute. We could talk about that on the other side. Some of the remakes, and I actually did enjoy Godzilla.
I loved Godzilla.
I thought it was.
I personally liked.
I thought it was really good. We're going to take we got an MSN break coming up live in studio tonight. Watson and Arthur are here from J-Wat Productions. They're going to be with us for another hour. We're talking about filmmaking and what they're doing here in Utah. And we talked a little bit about ufology and paranormal before we came in the studio, so maybe we'll touch on that a little bit tonight too. And making some money on YouTube.
Sweet.